Have you ever looked back on your life and wondered, how did I let that moment pass me by? Or maybe you've caught yourself thinking, why do I still carry the same weight, the same worry after all these years? If that sounds like you, you're not alone. A lot of us, especially as we get older, begin to reflect more deeply. We start noticing patterns, things that held us back, people who pushed us around, or feelings that quietly stole years of peace from our lives. But here's something you need to hear right now. It is never too late to take your life back. Even if you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, the truth is, you still have time. Time to enjoy, time to grow, time to finally live on your own terms. But to do that, you need to make a decision, starting today, that you will no longer let certain things control you. Not your past, not other people, not fear, not even money. That's what we're going to talk about right now. Because once you release these 5 invisible chains that so many people unknowingly live with, you begin to experience a kind of freedom that no one can take from you. So let me ask you, have you been feeling stuck lately? Like no matter how hard you try to move forward, something keeps pulling you back? Maybe it's time to look not at what's around you, but at what's within you. Let's begin with the first one, your past. If you're like most people, you've got a few bruises from the journey. Maybe more than a few. And while you've done your best to carry on, the truth is, some of that pain might still be hitching a ride in your heart. It might show up as hesitation, anger, guilt, or even silence. Maybe someone hurt you years ago and you've tried to forgive them, but deep down, you still carry the scar. Maybe you made a mistake, a big one, and part of you thinks you don't deserve to feel free again. But let me tell you something from one human being to another. You are not your past. You are not your worst moment. You are not what they did to you. Your past is a chapter, it's not your whole book. And right now you are the author holding the pen. There comes a moment when you have to decide, am I going to let what's behind me define what's ahead of me? You deserve to wake up and feel light in your chest. You deserve mornings that begin with peace, not regret. But you can't have that if you're still living in yesterday. Maybe you didn't get the apology you needed. Maybe you never will. But here's the truth. Healing doesn't wait for someone else's permission. You can free yourself. Take a deep breath. Say it with me if you can. That was then. This is now. I choose peace. You might be surprised how powerful that moment of letting go can be. Now let's talk about the second thing that sneaks in and controls far too many of us, other people's opinions. It's amazing how much energy we spend worrying about what someone else might think. And the funny thing is, most of the time they're not even thinking about us at all. But we still hold back. We keep quiet. We dress, speak, or live a certain way. Not because it feels right, but because we're afraid of being judged. Maybe you wanted to take a painting class, but you worried people might laugh. Maybe you stayed in a relationship because you didn't want to disappoint your children. Or maybe you kept your thoughts to yourself in family gatherings just to avoid conflict. And yet, every time you silence your voice to make someone else comfortable, a little part of you fades. You were not put on this earth to live according to someone else's expectations. You were born unique. You've lived through decades of storms, heartaches, victories, and quiet miracles. That's not something to hide. It's something to honor. So if you've ever felt like you had to dim your light to make others more comfortable, I want you to stop right now and remember this. The people who truly love you don't need you to shrink. They want you to shine. You are not too old to be bold. And here's a secret. When you stop caring what others think, you don't become reckless. You become free. You start making choices that align with your values, your joy, and your truth. And in doing so, you become an example for everyone around you. Your children, your grandchildren, your community. You show them what it looks like to live with quiet courage. Now let's move into something a little more hidden, but just as powerful. Our beliefs. I'm not talking about your values or your faith. I'm talking about the small, sneaky beliefs you've picked up along the way that whisper in your ear. You can't do this. You're too old. It's too late. You've never been good at that. You'll never change. Sound familiar? These kinds of thoughts don't usually come from you. They're planted there by others, maybe a parent, a teacher, a partner, or society itself. Over time, you start to believe they're true. And when you believe something long enough, it shapes the way you see the world. You stop trying. You stop dreaming. You start living smaller than your spirit was designed to be. But just because you've believed something for years doesn't make it true. What if I told you that those beliefs are nothing more than old recordings, and you have the power to press stop, eject the tape, and record a new one? You're never too old to update your mindset. Think about all the things you didn't know, how to do when you were younger. Riding a bike, learning to drive, managing your first job, raising a family. You didn't have it all figured out then, but you grew into it. Why should now be any different? You can learn new things. You can meet new people. You can start new routines, create new memories, and discover new sides of yourself. If you start believing that your best years can still be ahead of you, you might just be right. So take a moment and ask yourself, what belief have I been carrying that no longer serves me? Write it down, and then write a new one to replace it. Something like, I can still grow. I am still capable. I still matter. Because you do. And when your inner voice starts to echo with that kind of power, the world around you begins to shift too. People notice, opportunities find you, peace settles in your bones. It's not magic, it's mindset. And you're in control of that, starting right now. There's something powerful that happens when you finally realize, I don't have to believe every thought that crosses my mind. The truth is, once you challenge those old limiting beliefs, the ones that told you you're too old, too late, or not enough, you begin to reclaim your life in the most beautiful way. And that brings us to something deeply connected to how we experience life in our later years. Relationships. Now, relationships can be the greatest source of joy, or the deepest well of sorrow. And as we get older, the dynamics often change. Children grow up and sometimes grow distant. Spouses pass, friends move away, and we may find ourselves surrounded by fewer familiar faces. But the real challenge isn't just in who's around us, it's in what we believe we need from others to feel whole. You see, if your happiness depends entirely on whether someone else stays, approves, or behaves a certain way, then your peace is always at risk. One disagreement, one moment of rejection, one goodbye, and your world falls apart. And that's not how you were meant to live. This doesn't mean love isn't important. Love is one of the most powerful forces we'll ever know. We're made for connection, for companionship, for laughter shared over warm coffee or soft conversation on a quiet evening. But there's a difference between choosing to be with someone because you enjoy their company and needing someone because you feel incomplete without them. When we were younger, maybe we were taught that being alone meant something was wrong, that being single meant being unwanted, that solitude meant sadness. But that's not the truth. That's just another story we were told. There is strength in learning how to be your own source of joy. Imagine waking up in the morning, not needing a text or call or approval to feel good about your day, because you've already decided that you are enough just as you are. That kind of independence is not cold. It's not selfish. It's the kind of strength that actually deepens your ability to love others. Because now you're not clinging out of fear. You're choosing from fullness. And if you're already in a relationship, this matters too. Because when you no longer expect your partner to complete you or fix you, you give them room to just be. And that kind of space is where true love flourishes. I know it can be hard, especially if you've been through heartbreak, betrayal, or even abandonment. But the healing begins when you stop trying to fill every quiet moment with someone else and instead ask yourself, what does my own company feel like? At first, you might not like the answer, but over time, that silence becomes your strength. That space becomes your sanctuary. You begin to enjoy your own thoughts. You take yourself on little walks, sit in the sun longer, cook meals just for you, and it's enough. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop fearing being alone. And in that stillness, something remarkable happens. You start to hear yourself again. Not the noise of the world. Not the expectations of your children, or your partner, or society. You hear you. And that, my friend, is the beginning of true peace. But there's still one more thing that can quietly run our lives if we're not paying attention. It's the thing that controls millions of people every single day, without them even realizing it. Money. Now let me be clear, there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting abundance. Nothing wrong with saving, spending wisely, or even dreaming of financial freedom. You've probably worked hard your entire life, and you deserve to enjoy the fruits of that labor. But when money becomes the main decision maker in your life, when it has the final say in every choice you make, you're no longer free. Have you ever caught yourself saying, I wish I could do that, but I can't afford it? Even when it's something simple, something small that brings you joy? Or maybe you passed up something that lit up your soul because the price tag scared you, even though deep down, you knew you were worth it. Sometimes the problem isn't the money. It's the fear attached to it. We grow up hearing phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, or you've got to be practical. And yes, being responsible matters. But what also matters is understanding that you are not here to serve money. Money is here to serve you. Let that sink in. When money is in the driver's seat, you end up making choices from fear instead of faith. You settle for things you don't love. You stay in situations you've outgrown. You deny yourself simple pleasures that bring joy just to feel safe. But what if you started making decisions based on your values, not your fears? What if you followed what felt right in your heart and trusted that the money would follow? I've seen it happen over and over again. When people stop chasing money and start chasing purpose, the money catches up. Sometimes it doesn't come in piles of cash, but in peace of mind, in unexpected blessings, in new relationships or opportunities that money could never buy. And for those who are on fixed incomes, retirees, or living modestly, this still applies. Because abundance isn't just about dollars. It's about how rich you feel in your everyday life. It's the sunrise you get to watch from your porch without having to rush to work. It's the phone call from a friend that makes you smile for hours. It's a pot of soup that feeds not just your stomach, but your soul. That, too, is wealth. So let money be a tool, not a master. Let it serve your joy, not steal it. And never forget, the most valuable things in your life have never been things at all. There's something freeing about saying it out loud. I am no longer going to be controlled. Not by my past. Not by the opinions of others. Not by beliefs that limit me. Not by relationships that drain me. Not by money. And maybe you've said that before. Maybe you've even promised yourself to let go. But life happens, and slowly, those chains tighten again. But you're here now, listening, thinking, maybe feeling something inside begin to shift. That's no accident. Because awareness is where change begins. You don't need to fix everything overnight. You don't need to suddenly become a new person. You just need to become yourself again. The self underneath all the layers of other people's expectations. The self before the disappointment, before the heartbreak, before the fear. That version of you still exists. It's still alive. And it's waiting for you to remember. So maybe today is the day you start walking toward that version of yourself. Step by step, gently, no rush. Maybe that means finally letting go of the guilt you've carried for years about something you said or something you didn't do. Maybe it means forgiving someone, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Maybe it means saying no to something or someone that's been draining your energy. You're allowed to do that, even now, especially now. Maybe it means picking up a dream you set down years ago, dusting it off, and trying again. And maybe, just maybe, it means looking in the mirror and seeing not a person who is past their prime, but a person who's just getting started in a new chapter. Because age doesn't cancel purpose. It doesn't erase joy. It doesn't steal meaning. It just gives you more perspective to live better. And you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You've already lived through so much. That alone is proof of your strength. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Present with your breath, present with your mornings, present with your choices. And every time you notice one of those 5 things starting to sneak in again, your past, someone's judgment, a limiting thought, a toxic relationship, or a fear about money, you can gently stop, breathe, and say, "Number, I choose differently now." And the more you say it, the more it becomes your truth. You get to create a life that feels like yours. Maybe you spend more time in the garden. Maybe you read more books. Maybe you learn to dance again, or for the first time. Maybe you finally speak up when something doesn't sit right. Maybe you take a solo trip or start painting or laugh without worrying if someone thinks you're being too much. You've earned the right to live without apology. And here's the beautiful part. When you begin to live from this place of freedom, you don't just change your life, you start to change the lives of those around you. Your children, your grandchildren, your friends, they'll notice the peace in your eyes. They'll feel the strength in your presence. They might not understand it right away, but it'll leave an impression. And one day, someone younger than you might ask, "What changed?" And you'll be able to smile and say, "I stopped letting the wrong things run my life. I took my power back. I chose joy." So as we close this time together, I want you to take a moment, right here, right now, and say something to yourself that you may not have heard in a while. Say it out loud if you can. I am worthy of peace. I am not my past. I am free to be myself. I am enough exactly as I am. Let those words sink in. Let them settle in your chest like a warm blanket. Let them remind you of your value. Because no matter what anyone has ever said to you, no matter what mistakes you've made, no matter how many years have passed, you are still worthy of a full, rich, deeply satisfying life. Not just surviving, but truly living. And if this message has spoken to your heart today, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what part of this touched you most. Or simply say, "I'm choosing freedom," so we can see how many of us are walking this path together. If you haven't already, please take a second to like this video. It helps more people find this kind of encouragement. And don't forget to subscribe to Strong Elderly Life, where we talk about everything that matters most, living with strength, dignity, and purpose at every age. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for choosing to care for yourself. And thank you for proving every single day that growing older can also mean growing wiser, freer, and more alive than ever before. Here's to living your best life, no matter your age. We'll see you in the next one. Take care and keep shining.